So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with both local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forward. So, this morning I'm delighted to have with us Keiran Taylor, who's corporate finance and banking specialist at BPR Heaton Accountants. So, firstly, Keiran, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to just introduce yourself, BPR Heaton, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Keiran Taylor. So I've been at UHY BPR Heaton now for nearly 13 years. That wasn't how I started. I started off in retail banking. So I had a former career, 14 years in retail banking with Yorkshire Bank.
Right.
After the financial crisis, took an opportunity to move on to
Yep.
pastures new. The world was a difficult place at the time, 2012. We were just coming off the back of the financial crisis.
Yes.
Banks were in trouble. A few were being bailed out, as you may
Yep.
remember.
I do.
So my employer at the time was also suffering the difficulties of that time. So I took an opportunity for redundancy and took some time out to think about what I wanted to do. And decided to retrain and do my accountancy exams.
Brilliant.
So I've been with BPR Heaton since 2012. We're a small owner-managed business, so our owner is RMD.
Yep.
We're an independent accountancy firm, but part of the larger UHY network.
Got you.
And we're a full-service business accountancy firm. So we help clients from pre-startup, from conception, right through to exit, sale, and into retirement. So it's a full-service offering business. My role within the company, I head up the advisory department, which, as you point out, incorporates corporate finance, banking advisory.
Yep.
Obviously, my background
Yes, of course.
leads me to that.
Br-
We've as a firm, we've been going. I think you can trace the history back to around World War II.
Right. Wow.
So we've been around a long time in various guises. So when I started in 2012, we just merged what was Heaton Long Island Broad Appeal Road became BPR Heaton.
Yep.
We've just recently moved offices up into the sort of Eden area of Leeds, which is a big step for us. We've been a Pudsey business for decades.
Yes.
You become your staff, your clients associate you as a Pudsey firm of accountants.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was a big move for us, but nothing but successful. And then we joined the UHY network just short of 3 years ago.
Right.
Which again has been another, in my view, a great move.
Yep.
It opens up a number of doors. I think when you're a small independent firm like we are, you can easily become an island, and it's difficult to benchmark and see how you do things differently or the same, better, worse than others.
Yep.
So join the UHY, the big advantage for me is we're a member organisation. I think there's 20 odd UK companies part of the organisation. And we just get to talk to other accountants, so you don't feel like an island anymore. There's a real camaraderie which has been a real eye opener for me, and a lot of best practice shared, which has only made us stronger, I think, as a relatively small independent firm.
Brilliant. And sort of looking at the sort of client base that you have, what would you say makes a great client for you?
Oh yeah, so going back to what I said earlier, we help clients from conception right through to exit. So a great client for us is somebody who within their business lacks the experience and skills to deal with the financial side of things. Which is usually owner managed, but you get your engineer, your plumber, your dressmaker, whatever they do. They're brilliant at being a plumber, being a dressmaker, whatever they do.
Absolutely.
But perhaps are thrown into the deep end when it comes to managing the business and finance, actually being a business owner.
Yeah.
That's where we can step in, I think, and to me that's our particular skill level. So there's maybe a perhaps unfair view that accountants turn up once a year with a set of numbers, say, look what you did 18 months ago, that was great. Move on, we'll see in a year's time. We fundamentally disagree with that activity.
Brilliant.
So we see ourselves, and I think most of our clients would agree, see ourselves as a partner in the business. We have parachuted people in when financial directors have left at short notice and left businesses high and dry. we have, I mean, I think of one particular example. Myself and a colleague met with some clients who worked in a shed manufacturers. They needed to meet to look at, they were thinking of starting their own business, and they thought
Yep.
they could take the idea of making sheds and actually, in fairness, and they solved problems in the industry that I don't think the industry knew they had.
Right.
They thought they could do it better. So we met with them late one evening, helped them source some finance, help put a financial, help them form business, help them put a financial team in place or a financial system in place.
Yep.
That business, after 3 years, so this is now 2023, sold out half their business for several million to a European private equity. So we took them right from pre-inception. How do we start this? We need some cash. How do we get going? And we helped them right through to a partial exit, and they're still on a huge growth trajectory now.
Brilliant.
So that to me, that is exactly what I love doing. That's
Yeah.
where I get pleasure out of doing what I do, and I think that's where we're most helpful to clients.
Yes.
They were brilliant at making sheds and knew how to do
Yeah.
that, and operationally, they were absolutely light years ahead of their industry, but needed a bit of help with the finances, and we just took one pressure away from them so they could focus on the other stuff.
I think I interviewed them, funnily enough, 2 or 3 years ago. Funnily enough, you've sparked that with my mind, because I remember speaking to them afterwards. They were I think they were pre that process at the time. So brilliant. And I mean, one thing you said is absolute music to me, is because um, as a business coach, when we work with clients, we have a number of levels to create a business that can ultimately work without the owner. But the first level is mastery, is building that foundation. And one of the four pillars of that is financial mastery. And I absolutely agree with you. Most businesses started by people that are good at what they do. They're not necessarily good at running a business at what they do, because that's not what they're trained as and not what they know. But mastering finances, and I think it's great that you take people through and you support people through that process, because I think there can be a lot of, what's the word? There's a lot of specific language around accounts and accounting that can be quite confusing to people when they've not ever looked at a set of accounts before. And I think being able to understand that and lead people through that process is wonderful, and it's something we like to recommend people that can do that, because while as coaches we need to have a certain level of financial understanding, that's not our expertise. So it's great that you do that, because I do believe, unfortunately, and not necessarily deliberately, there are some accountants that almost, as you say, turn up once a year, blind people with science, and while they're doing the job, they're not necessarily helping their clients as much as they possibly could. So absolutely wonderful. So you talked a little bit about your background. If you go even before that, looking back as growing up, is this the sort of thing you saw yourself doing, or did you have other plans as a young man or a boy?
I don't think I know anybody ever that said, when I grow up I want to be an accountant. I think most kids, or most accountants, should I say, that you meet, fell into it in some way. I think some see it. Don't get me wrong. Some see it as a real stable career.
Yeah.
And it's accountancy is a very broad church.
Yes.
There's the traditional view of what an accountant does, but the truth is, if you look at the heads of many FTSE companies, they're accountants.
Yes.
The role is very very broad, very dynamic.
Yeah.
And so, going back to your question, no, I didn't see myself as being an accountant. When I was a kid, from the age of 10, all I ever wanted to do was be an architect, make buildings.
Right, brilliant.
Started my degree and wondered why the hell did I think I wanted to do this. I thought, I had this idea of being creative, and this is Norman Foster's of this world, and design these amazing buildings.
Yep.
And actually, 99% of architects are basically three-dimensional lawyers.
Right,
these are regulations. How do you comply with them through design? It's not a creative role for many architects. And I started to twig onto this when I started my degree and wonder why the hell I did this. So no, I didn't want to be an accountant, and then I found myself in the Badlands for about a couple of years. Worked as a chef for a while.
Oh, wow.
Worked in a removals company. fit double glazing windows, just
Brilliant.
anything to get some cash in. I think until
Yep.
there was that. I think every sort of 18-year-old who's a bit lost ends up having that conversation with the parents saying, "Sort yourself out, get a real job, or you're out." It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I need to. It was a kick up the backside I needed, I think. So, just wrote to every what I believed would be a serious business in and around. I'm from Halifax, which is a real, although its history is wool and cloth and mills.
Yep.
Actually, it's found itself as it had a bit of a centre for banking.
Okay.
Halifax Building Society,
Yep.
Yorkshire Bank were all
Of course.
founded in
Of
Halifax.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
I wrote to banks, insurance companies, lawyers, accountancy firms, ended up getting a job at Yorkshire Bank. Did 14 years in Yorkshire Bank, lived in London and run the London branch for a little while.
Well.
And then, the financial crisis hit, and that made banking a really unpleasant place to be.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was, everybody struggled through that. It wasn't just banking. Although I mean, there was a time I remember we were doing when we had a Christmas do like every other business, we had to make sure we booked it in a false name because the press would show up. Even just a local branch in Halifax, the press would show up and say, "Here, look some photographs of bankers enjoying themselves." And it was horrible.
Goodness.
Yeah, it was a horrible place to be. And so in 2012, the bank I was working for had a big restructure and had an opportunity to take redundancy, which felt like the cushion I needed to change.
Yeah.
Change my life so I mean I got into one of the things I really liked about banking and what I hoped banking would be, and it was for a while, was you get the idea that you were a value partner, I think.
Yep.
For many businesses. You get to know how those businesses function and work. So I was always very interested in the role of business and how it works.
Yes.
From a sort of theoretical point of view, I suppose, but also, looking at the world practically and seeing how all that fit together. And you get a chance to go in and help those businesses achieve what they want to do. And I found that really appealing and interesting. But banking became something different, and it became a bit too inward looking during that financial crisis.
Yep.
How can we protect ourselves?
Yes.
Clients, we'll think about clients afterwards. And that became very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think my employer was particularly unique in that respect. I think the whole industry became very worried for itself. And rightly so. It was an awful place to be at the time, and so I got out and took some time to think about what I wanted to do, and I still liked this idea, and I'd spent 14 years learning about business, and so I thought, how can I use that best?
Yeah,
and where will I get the opportunity to do that in the fullest way, where there's less pressure on selling products and things like that, where I'd be free to basically just go and help businesses, and that would be valued.
Yeah.
And so I concluded accountancy was the way to do that. So 2012 or 2013, should I say? I started early 2013.
Brilliant.
Started with BPR Heaton, as they were at the time, before we joined UHY. And did my accountancy exams in my early 30s, which is a bit odd. I was often older than the lecturers.
Right.
But I loved it. It was great. I've always enjoyed learning. It's a big part of, I think, who I am. But I just it was odd. But and I've often had people say to me, "Wow, you did, that's amazing." It's like, it wasn't really amazing. It was just necessary and enjoyable. I qualified back in 2016, I think it was.
Brilliant.
And now head up the firm's advisory division, which is, wonderful. Again, I talked about accounting being a broad church. Advisory is such a wide remit that gives me a lot of flexibility, and I love it. I mean, I absolutely brilliant. Monday mornings I look forward to, which there was a time in my career I didn't. Which is important. So Sunday evenings are no longer filled with dread. They're brilliant. I've got a week ahead, and it's fun, and it's varied.
Brilliant.
I really love it.
Wonderful. And going back to your point about accountancy, and it is an interesting point. It is, it's such a broad church, and yet typically people are just called accountants, which is creates that, it's just, in many ways, that immediate communication challenge, because someone will say, well, I've got an accountant, but all I get, as you say, is a yearly visit with 6-month-old accounts or 18-month-old accounts, as you say. So looking back over your career, what's some of the biggest challenges? Obviously, you mentioned the banking crisis, but what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome over that time?
Good question. Certainly, I think that particular time in banking was especially difficult, and I think when you take the leap and you take redundancy, which there's many people out there that's forced on them. I volunteered, so then there's pressure on you. You've got to get this right.
Yeah,
So that I think there was a couple of months that I took out to think about what I wanted to do. There was definitely an idea that I could get this wrong, but
yeah,
and then as I'm 13 years down the line now, and I'm thinking, well, even if I'd got it wrong, there's always a plan B, C, or D.
yes,
There's always, but the time you think it's now or nothing,
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
that was an uncomfortable moment in my career where I just recently taken on a mortgage at that point. There's life pressures.
yeah,
The redundancy allowed me the comfort to take some time to do it, which was, not many people get that, and that was useful.
yeah,
But it was an idea that what if I get this wrong? That was an unpleasant
yeah,
part of my career, I suppose. But I mean, in hindsight, I was, I say I was young, I was in my early 30s, and but now, there was never a wrong really, because I'd already proven to myself that if it wasn't working, I can change it.
absolutely.
I suppose at some point you've got to back yourself. I
Yes,
think whatever it is I choose to do, believe that you're good enough to figure it out.
absolutely.
Um,
Ah,
so yeah, I'd say that moment, that period in my career,
yes,
particularly towards the end of banking,
yeah,
thinking, because you get comfortable even when it's difficult.
yeah,
You always believe change is worse.
yes,
And when you get to that stage, you're thinking, this is, I'm not enjoying Monday mornings.
yeah.
Sunday nights are not,
It's a
a
horrible
pleasant.
feeling, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's it.
totally get it.
And so there was that last probably 18 months before I left were particularly difficult.
Yeah,
There was a sense of relief when I finally, that mental torture you put, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, and then there was a relief, and then right, made a decision here, I've got to make this work.
brilliant.
But yeah, in hindsight, it was absolutely the best thing I've ever done.
Brilliant, brilliant, great to hear. And obviously working with businesses as both in banking and in accountancy now, what are some of the biggest learnings you've got about successful businesses, growing them in general, would you say?
Yeah, I think there's many books written in about
Yes,
successful business,
a whole
the
chunk.
Bransons of this world, but nobody ever writes a book, do they, about this is how my business failed. So you only ever hear the positive story about how things worked out by the people where it actually worked out. So there's for every Richard Branson, there must be a million where
Yeah,
they just bob along. And we look after the businesses that earn their owners a living and no more than that.
yeah,
But they've still got the freedom to live. So they're not hugely successful, but I think the one thing I think I spot most people that either have enough, they haven't had a failure, or that aren't don't see themselves as a failure, have some level of success, whether it's just earning a living or actually the
yeah,
shed guys that we spoke about earlier. Where they're really successful. I think the thing that's common amongst all of them is just do something.
yeah,
Don't procrastinate.
yeah,
If you just get busy doing something and learn along the way, back yourself to deal with the problems that come along. I think most people procrastinate because they plan the hell out of it and never get it
yeah,
done. Um, and that
absolutely.
that is half the difficulty. You spend 90% of your time planning and 10% doing, and then you've talked yourself out of it. Whereas actually, if you just crack on, have a go. I've met we had so UHY, we have a national conference, and we had a guest speaker, and it was the idea of the conference was, how can we as accountants help businesses prosper? That was
Yeah,
the idea of the conference. So we had some guests on, some professional talkers that spoke about resilience and this sort of thing, which are really interesting. But to
yeah,
me, the key bit of the whole thing was that we had a couple of business owners come on and talk about what they did. One of them makes jewelry, a company called D. Louise. Really, really interesting business.
right.
And She was a young girl who just gotten a bit lost in life. I think I
Yep.
hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I think that's how she described it. She'd
Yeah.
gotten a
Yeah.
little bit lost in a way in life.
Yep.
Had a friend who was a business owner and a serial entrepreneur. She'd never done anything like that before, and even considered, didn't really know anything about even starting a company, a business, anything. But just back to self, whatever it was. I wish I could have asked her the questions. What was the thing that turned your life and being, should I, shouldn't I, should, and then just, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to, I'd love to know what that trigger was. Because she's got a really successful business now. I think they were saying that they've now sold 1 million items of jewelry,
Brilliant.
really fast growing company. But each they said, every day there's a new challenge, and
Yep.
she's managed to get to a point where she backs herself to do whatever the world throws at her now. I can figure it out. I
Brilliant.
don't have to plan it all before I get going. I'll just crack on and work it out as I go along. I think that is the common thing in people that are successful in business. Not even just successful, but just can make a living out of it. Because things are going to come along that are not in your control that'll
Absolutely.
change things. And I think I've got from I mean, you've got to be, everyone's a seller. I think you've got to be good at selling. And the one thing I learned early in my banking career, and this was a client that told me this, is selling is about being in the right place at the right time. And
Yep.
you've no idea when the right time is. So just be in the right place as often as you can
As
be.
often as
And
you can.
eventually
100%.
it'll be the right time. Just be consistent, keep doing the right thing.
Couldn't agree more.
And eventually, it's like, as accountants, you try and win a client. People don't change their accountants very often. So, you just got to be persistent,
Yeah.
build relationships. And eventually someone will go, you know what, my accountants now got it wrong.
Yep.
I'm losing faith in them. We've been
Yep.
talking for a couple of years. Can I come and have a chat with you? So
Yep.
that does happen. So, yeah, I think be consistent and just get busy doing something. And procrastination kills businesses, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it isn't a coincidence we're called action coach business coaching because it is about taking action.
Mm.
But one of our sort of slogans is the biggest risk you can take is to do nothing,
Yeah.
because that, as you say, the world's moving on. So inactivity is typically more risky than activity. And again, go back to that planning idea. I mean, plans are important, but I think having that destination is important because then, or if I know where I'm headed, at least every decision I make, I've got a reference point. So as long as I'm doing something, I'm more likely to get, is this going to take me closer to that goal or not? And it makes it easier for decisions. I think I think I heard a Olympic rower speak recently, and she talked about, does it make the boat go faster? And that was it. That was the point. Does it make the business go faster? So if I'm going to do this or not, is it gonna, if it, yes, do it, no, don't do it. And it started to make decision making and then action, as you say, better. Now there is, interestingly enough, I think I've got a copy of it here somewhere. One of my client recommended, there is a book about business failure. If you're interested, it's called, although there is success in it too, it's called What I Learned Losing $1 Million. And it is by a guy that failed and then realized the failure and make it better. So it is a success story too. So you're right. I don't think there's any books that are pure failure, but it is, yeah. If you ever want to read a book like that, so brilliant. So yeah, I was brilliant about learning to grow businesses, and I think it's really key, as you say, have a plan, do stuff, avoid procrastination. And yeah, sales, marketing, lead generation, sales. It's a numbers game, isn't it? Therefore, the more I do, the more likely I'm going to get an outcome.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And I think you're aware we are a coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impacts on you?
Uh, yeah. I mean, just so professionally, obviously, the work I do is quite technical. So I'd say RMD, a guy called Mark Andrews, real technical guy.
Yep,
I've learned a lot working with Mark.
brilliant,
But I think just generally in life and in trying to so my philosophy, just never stop learning.
brilliant.
And actually, it's not just a philosophy. I just really enjoy it. So, for
Yeah,
example,
absolutely.
I'm 45, and I'm thinking, why did I've always admired musicians. The skill that it takes to be competent playing an instrument. It's been something I've admired.
Brilliant.
And then last year, sort of took the plunge and thought, I'm 45. I'm just going to learn piano. It's something else. I've got some capacity in my life to
Brilliant.
do that now. So yeah, I'll just start doing that. So I've always thought never stop learning. And that I think comes from my dad. So from a very young age, he's always sort of encouraged. He's a you know he's a clever guy, and yeah, he's always encouraged me and my. I've got three brothers. We've always been encouraged to learn, and it's just something that's been ingrained in us throughout. And I think that idea that earn your way through life. Don't expect to be given anything. Look around you.
Yep.
Everything you've got, have you earned it? And that was ingrained in all of us, I think, from my parents from earlier. So I think parents are. I think that's true of most people, but a big influence in my life. And there was
Yes.
one guy I remember when I was a kid. I was a really sort of shy, painfully shy, I would say, teenager. And at 20-year-old, I moved to London with a school friend. So I'm from West Yorkshire, Halifax,
Yep.
country bumpkin, and a friend of mine rang me up one day, said, I've just been offered a job in London. Do you fancy it? What the hell? Why not? We'll move down there.
Brilliant.
So first time out of the parents' house. And when I was down there, it was you were learning your life. I was 20, and I didn't earn enough money, so I needed a second job. I got a job in a pub in a Wetherspoons, and the guy that ran the Wetherspoons, who's still a friend of mine, although unfortunately I lost a bit of touch with him now recently, a guy called Rob Dawson. Best boss I ever worked for. Absolute brilliant guy. And he was a team builder. So he didn't particularly do anything special. He was brilliant with people.
Yeah.
You knew where you stood with him. It was, fairness was a big part of what he did. And he just built a brilliant team. And so in terms of going from a shy teenager who wouldn't talk to anybody to moving back to Halifax at 26, so just the 6 years I was in London, he probably had the biggest impact on me in terms of coming back a more confident person,
Brilliant.
I think. So yeah, he was important. When I look back and think about these things, yeah, his name comes straight to front of mind, really. Just a great guy.
Great. What a great memory. And whether it's from any of the guys you referenced or anyone else, do you have any favourite quotes or sayings that you catch yourself using a lot about business or success in general?
Yeah, no, not any really particularly famous quotes. I think that sort of idea that I've mentioned there about parents kind of earn your way through life. Don't
Yeah.
don't wait for the world to come and help you. Help
Yeah.
yourself. Crack on with it. Get moving, and try and find a way. I mean, I mean, like anybody else, I think I've suffered a little bit of loss in my life. My mother passed away when she was only 52. A cousin passed away recently at 34, and I think just seeing these things happen, you never know. This is getting a bit deep now, but you never really know when that time comes. So don't waste it. Just have a go. I mean, I think when you look at a lot of business owners, I think there's many business owners that are second, third, fourth generation.
Yeah.
So then there's this idea, this safety net. And my parents were both worked in a bedding factory, which is a big industry in this part of the world.
Yeah.
And if it all went wrong for me, there would always be a room at home, but there wasn't sort of cash safety net. I had to make it work. And so I think the idea that that hard work, earn your way through life. It comes down to, I don't want to get into too much detail. There feels to be a sense of entitlement amongst some people that we come across.
Yeah.
And that just feels a bit alien to me. So just recently come out in the press about by 2050, I think most people need to expect the retirement age to be north of 70.
Yes.
And that those retirees at that age are going to be worse off than retirees now.
Yeah.
So the governments have announced this. I think it came out of a report that announced that. Well, to me, that feels odd because surely I'm in charge of what my retirement looks like.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting for someone to give me something and decide whether or not I should have a good or a bad retirement. Or I'm earning money now. I can make decisions now which affect that. Look after yourself. Don't wait for this idea that someone can come and hold a hand out. Don't get me wrong, everybody needs help at some point, but don't rely on it. Earn your way through that. I think that's to me after a common quote. It's not really a quote, but a philosophy of life is make sure you earn it.
I completely agree. We could take control of our own outcomes in the future, and yeah, I'm sure. I suspect the report is about if all you do is base wage, base wage, therefore base pension, etc. But yeah, but we all have choices, so let's crack on. Couldn't agree more. And in terms of learning, you obviously mentioned a lot about learning. Do you have any favourite books or podcasts that you follow that you can recommend?
My book choices are probably a bit niche, if I'm honest with you.
Right.
So, like one not recent actually, but one I read relatively, which is born out of this idea that I just want to learn something.
Yep.
We all know the E equals MC squared, and I just found myself one evening going, why? What
Brilliant.
what does that mean?
Brilliant.
How did we come to that conclusion? So I found a book. It was actually written by a couple of guys out of Manchester. It was famous TV physicist, ex keyboard player for the band in the 90s. I forget. Brian Cox.
Yeah, Brian Cox. You've got,
So
yeah,
he
yeah.
wrote it with a colleague at Manchester Uni. It's called Why Does E equal MC squared?
Yeah, brilliant.
Um, and it's I'm not a scientist at all. I'm interested, but I'm
Brilliant.
not. I'm not. But so you know what? And it was for laymen like me. It explained it in a way that I understood, and I just loved reading that. So I wouldn't say there's a particular person. I just think if you're going to learn, you don't limit yourself to be just whatever you find interesting.
Absolutely.
I'd say just you went back to about inspirational people. So when in 2003 I went on holiday to Egypt. I always found ancient history fascinating. Egypt's an amazing place.
Yeah.
And it was on these touring holidays. So it was a coach of sort of 30 people, mostly Antipodean sort of New Zealanders, South Africans,
Yeah.
Australians, all in their early 20s. A couple of Canadians, and there was me and two other English blokes. They were the only English guys there, and they were both in the I would say late 60s. And I talked with them for a little bit, and they were both retired RAF engineers.
Right.
And so they decided in retirement they've always been interested in Egypt, in ancient Egypt. So they decided we'll do an open university degree in Egyptology, and then
Brilliant.
they'd take holidays intermittently into Egypt to go and
Brilliant.
visit sites that they were learning about
Yeah. Yeah.
their
Brilliant.
open university degree. And I thought, that is retirement. Learning isn't this burden that you have
No.
to do for work. To me, work is the thing that stops you learning all the stuff you really want to go and understand better. Like,
Absolutely.
as I mentioned, I'm playing piano, but to me, that is you talk about inspirational people. I decided from that day that is how I'm going to retire. I'm
Brilliant.
going to, figure out what it is I want to know about better that life
Yep.
has got in the way of me understanding better, and just go and do it. Just go and find the time
Brilliant.
to go and learn that. I mean, to me, they were brilliant. I think I
Love
just
it.
thought, what a way to retire.
Absolutely love it. And on that same thing, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
Um, I'm probably more resilient than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, I was a shy kid, and when I moved to London, that was, I think a lot of people that knew me best at the time was like, "You're doing what?" And there are many people that do it. So I'm not particularly unique that way, but in my circle of friends, that was a little unusual. And I was just a shy kid, and I didn't make friends easily. I was a bit nerdy. And yeah, I got a job in a pub, which forces you to come out of your shell.
Yep.
And I think I've found I'm certainly chattier than I used to be. I think all my colleagues, I think I've got a reputation at work for being a little chatty, which is helpful in when you're networking
Absolutely
and things like
great.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm probably a bit more resilient than I expected I would be.
Brilliant.
When adversity has come around, I think I'm capable of coping with it better than I thought I would be.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's probably the one learning.
Brilliant. And so looking forward, Kieran, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Well, yeah, I mean, accountancy is it never really stays the same for long. I don't think there's always
Yeah.
something around the corner. But to me, there are two challenges really in not just for us, but in for the whole industry. And actually, it's not just accounting. The world's got these same challenges really. But first and foremost,
Yep.
artificial intelligence.
Yep.
It's a word that's battered around a lot. You see artificial intelligence run vacuum cleaners. Like, really, that's not AI. But the thing that AI does really, really well is it takes large data, forms a process, a system on it, and produces something else. It's
Yep.
great at managing large data.
Yep.
Accountancy is the management of large data.
Yeah.
You take a client's books. Often the thing that we do is take those books, discover some errors in them, discover the things that the client didn't know how to account for,
Yeah.
and correct those things, and then format them into a way that complies with a
Yeah.
regulatory standard. That is currently a human algorithm. We
Yes.
just, the person sat there taking this set of numbers,
Yeah.
applied some changes to it, produced this set of numbers.
Yeah.
That, if that's all you do as an accountant, 5 to 10 years, you will be replaced by a button on Sage.
Yeah. Yep.
Because that the AI is the thing that's worrying but surprising perhaps is the speed of growth.
Oh
If
yeah.
we'd have had this conversation 2 to 3 years ago,
Yes.
it would have been something out of science fiction. It's actually part of the world now.
Yep.
The growth is astronomical, and you need to do something else as an accountant.
Yep.
You need to add value in other ways.
Yep.
So the role that I play, which is looking at advisory work, it's a human. I mean, I'll give you a great example. I got a call from a lawyer a couple of weeks ago. He was dealing with a business in East Yorkshire that was in the process of selling his business.
Yep.
The buyers had done some due diligence on it and come back with an offer 33% lower than the original heads of terms offer. And the lawyer just said, "Look, you need some help here." This guy was brilliant at what he did. He understood his industry really, really well. He's a great guy, really nice chap to get along with.
Yep.
But he'd never sold a business before. He never valued a business before. He never dealt with those nuances. AI can't replace that.
Yeah.
You need a person, a one-to-one interaction with the buyer, talk it through. Yes, you could go and ask questions of an AI model, ChatGPT or whatever, saying, "How do I sell my business? The buyers have said this. What does that mean?" Yes, you can, but actually, you need somebody with the experience and who's done this a few times before, because this is a negotiation.
Yep.
AI's not, well, maybe one day there'll be a chatbot that can negotiate on your behalf. We'll see. But at the moment, the world wants humans to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think that client would currently, or maybe ever, want a non-human doing that work. So you need to add value in those ways as an accountant. You can't just do it as you can't just be a number cruncher. If that's all you do,
Completely agree.
Your time's limited. Don't get me wrong; it might take more than 10 years. There's those out there that might survive it, but it is coming. The things that the cat's out of the bag now. You can't.
I think, to be honest, Keiran, I think it's sooner. I think it's 2 to 3 years. I agree with you. I think the transactional or processing side of any business or profession can and will be done. I mean, I've got a client right now that's got a sales support agent. In fact, I think there's a sales agent which is voice to voice, so you can literally for relatively low investment, you can now ring up and it will talk to you about what you're looking for and put get an understanding of your needs, associate that with some of the product lines that they have. Ultimately, they pass it on to the salesperson for the final discussion. But that's happening right now. So the transactional part. But I think two things are: A, as you say, it's not knowledge, because if knowledge is just facts, that's knowledge. That's one thing. But using knowledge in an innovative way, that's advice. That's thinking. I think that keeps the advisory side of most businesses still needs to be by humans. But also, I think for a reasonable length of time, there's still going to be a significant part of the marketplace that want to speak with a human, even if they accept that the advice they get isn't any different or even not even as good as what an AI agent might do. But I still want to speak to somebody real. So yeah, did you say? I think we've got to be really aware. We've got to really understand what it means to each of our professions and act accordingly. But the good thing is, I guess most accountants probably don't necessarily enjoy that number crunching part of what they do. It's more about how I present this, how I advise a client, how I work on it. So no, absolutely brilliant. Really interesting, and it's something that we're doing more of in terms of not advising clients, but introducing them to the knowledge that exists out there, because we're learning, but there are people that are learning far ahead. So, final question for you: what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you, Keiran, if you could go back in time and do that?
back yourself.
Brilliant.
You'd be surprised at what you're capable of doing, I think.
Brilliant.
As an 18-year-old me would have shied away from going back to what I was saying before about procrastination versus
Yeah.
cracking on. 18-year-old me probably wouldn't have jumped into anything until he'd understood everything about it, planned the hell out of it, and only when he'd figured out every possible way it could go wrong and what he would
Yeah.
do, which isn't necessarily a bad thing,
No.
but it does slow you down.
Yeah.
It definitely slows down. But yeah, I think that's the one thing. Just back yourself, and you there was an element of confidence about certain things as an 18-year-old me, but yeah, not. I feel now like I've seen enough, and maybe that's just experience, isn't it? I guess,
Yeah.
but yeah, just have faith. You'll be fine.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, Keiran, it's been fascinating talking to you today. And thank you for sharing a lot of the your knowledge, your expertise, the ideas for the future. Wonderful. Some great takeaways from today. And for anyone that's watching would like to get in touch with you or BPR Heaton, what would be the best way of doing that?
Yeah, so we're part of the UHY. So if you just look for UHY.com,
Right.
and so we're the Leeds office.
Yep.
Or there's yeah, if you just look for me on the website or through LinkedIn, I'm more than happy to communicate with people through LinkedIn. So it's Keiran Taylor at UHY BPR.
Brilliant. Well, it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and let's see how close we are to AI taking over at that point. But for now, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Lovely.
Thank you.